Shin was just a young boy when the war took his parents from him. He couldn't comprehend why his mother and father had disappeared. On a particular day, he turned to his elder brother, Shuri, seeking answers. Abruptly, Shuri's anger flared, and he forcefully grasped Shin, pinning him to the ground. Accusing Shin, Shuri asserted that it was Shin who had caused their parents' demise, and that soon he would meet the same fate. In that very moment, Shin's life seemed to slip away, but a compassionate priest intervened, rescuing him from Shuri's grip and reviving him. Ever since that incident, Shin has carried a lasting scar on his neck, serving as a constant reminder of his brother's actions. However, something even more extraordinary occurred to Shin after his near-death experience. He started to hear the voices of those who had departed from this world. As for Shuri, he departed to partake in the war and never returned. It was 4 years later when a significant change took place in Shin's life. Amid the hushed whispers of the deceased, he distinctly heard the voice of his brother Rei. In that moment, Shin knew that Rei was gone forever. It compelled Shin to enlist in the military, but the conflict he found himself in was no ordinary war. It unfolded as a clash between two significant nations, the Republic of San Magnolia and the Jayadian Empire. In the past, Shin had resided in the Republic, but their side was losing ground. Consequently, the leaders introduced a rule. If one lacked the silver hair and eyes like Shin's, they were no longer considered true Alba citizens. They all found themselves trapped, assigned to safeguard a special camp situated outside the country's 85 primary regions. This camp came to be known as the 86th District, which earned its inhabitants the moniker the 86. The 86 were tasked with operating formidable combat machines called juggernauts, serving as the Republic's defense. They were instructed to fight for 5 years, with the promise of freedom if they managed to survive that period. This was the same pledge made to Shin's parents, but a grave falsehood tainted the Republic's narrative, the assertion that no one suffered harm in this war. In reality, the enemy, the Jayadian Empire, employed robots for combat, while the Republic used the 86 individuals as pilots. They disregarded the humanity of the 86, and as a result, they claimed that the war had no casualties, treating the 86 as if they weren't real people. After dedicating 4 years to the army, Shin earned the nickname the Undertaker. He held the esteemed position of the strongest among the 86 and led the Spearhead Squadron, a group comprising other formidable 86 members who had been engaged in the battle for approximately the same duration as Shin. Their collective aspiration was a significant one, to serve for 5 years and finally attain the freedom that had eluded every 86 before them. The epithet the Undertaker was bestowed upon Shin due to the weighty burden he bore, that of having to make the agonizing decision to end the lives of his comrades. It wasn't a choice born out of cruelty or madness, but rather a desperate measure taken when one of his team members suffered severe injuries during combat. Shin made this painful decision with a purpose in mind, to prevent the enemy, the legions, from obtaining their comrades' brains. The legions intended to use these brains to enhance the capabilities of their robotic forces. Shin was compelled to make this heart-wrenching choice more than 500 times. Each time, he would take a piece of metal and carefully inscribe the name of his fallen friend as a lasting tribute to their memory. However, today marks a new beginning for Shin and his squad, all thanks to their former commander's decision to contribute to Truckgun's monthly quota. During a mission, the former commander could perceive the voices of the departed within Shin's thoughts. As a result, he chose to put a cap on it himself. Consequently, they now have a new leader, a woman by the name of Lena, affectionately known as Lena. She holds the rank of Alba Major in the Republic of San Magnolia's army. Lena's primary responsibility entails remaining safe within the capital, while leading a group of 86 against the Empire's formidable legions. These legions continually grow in strength with each acquisition of an 86 brain. To aid her team in battles, Lena wields a special tool known as a parade. This device enables her to experience what the 86 fighters go through and communicate with them, even from a distance. What sets Lena apart from the rest of the Albus is her compassionate heart. She firmly believes that every 86 is a genuine person and treats them with kindness, in stark contrast to the prevailing attitude among the Albas. Most of them harbor prejudiced views and possess a superiority complex, treating the 86 as subordinates and derogatorily referring to them as pigs. 1 week later, following her introduction and discussions with her new squadron, Lena delivered a crucial piece of information. An impending attack was imminent. However, she was already running behind schedule. The squadron had been well aware of the approaching threat and stood ready for deployment. Despite being vastly outnumbered by hundreds of legions facing just a few 20s of the 86, the numerical disadvantage held little significance. Taking strategic advantage of the high ground, Shin's squad commenced a relentless barrage of gunfire that seemed almost frenzied. The Legion's robotic forces rapidly dwindled before they could even comprehend the chaotic situation unfolding. They eventually managed to pinpoint the 86 positions, but by then, it was too late. As they launched their missiles, the 86 proved elusive targets, dancing through the battlefield with an effortless grace. It became a one-sided battle, where the Spearhead Squadron's combat skills vastly outshone those of the automated robots. They effortlessly sidestepped incoming attacks while leveraging the terrain to eliminate the mechanical adversaries. Only when faced with long-range, gunner-type Scorpion fire did they find it necessary to divide their forces and stage a strategic retreat. Lena earnestly attempted to fulfill her role by providing information, but Shin's dismissive remark deemed her efforts useless. He firmly believed that any information shared would only aid the enemy in locating them. Fueled by an unwavering determination to emerge victorious, Shin took charge and decided to single-handedly bear the weight of this battle. Without hesitation, he charged forward, deftly dodging incoming missiles and bullets with a grace that defied the odds. He leaped onto a Legion robot, rendering it a heap of scrap metal with precise gunfire. Swiftly returning to the streets, Shin navigated behind the ruins of demolished buildings to shield himself from enemy fire. He repeated his daring charge, deploying his Juggernaut's blade to sever the legs of the Legion's robots and maintaining his agility to evade their retaliatory strikes. Employing a cable, he scaled a bridge, then descended upon another Legion robot with a well-placed leap. Confusion and chaos gripped the Legion's robotic forces as they were mercilessly blasted into retreat. In the aftermath of the battle, Lena began reaching out to her squad regularly, especially to Shin. However, her persistent efforts were met with reluctance from the squadron members. They harbored deep mistrust for the very people who had stripped them of their rights and forced them into deadly combat. Moreover, suspicions arose due to Lena's apparent proximity to Shin. Lena, though well-intentioned and somewhat naive, held firm in her belief that they could win the war and bring about change. However, for the first time since her arrival, one of the squad members fell in battle. She attempted to apologize to the squad, but some members couldn't contain their frustration. They chastised her for resembling another Alba who regarded them as mere slaves rather than human beings. This is why she remained in the comforts of the capital, distant from the front lines. However, her most significant shortcoming lay in her failure to learn their real names, relying solely on their nicknames. Following her emotional breakdown, Lena mustered the courage to call the squad and extend her heartfelt apologies, expressing a genuine desire to know their real names. The atmosphere took a positive turn, with everyone introducing themselves and enjoying the camaraderie. When Shin disclosed his name, Lena experienced a sudden realization. She knew his elder brother. Years ago, when Lena was still a child, Lena's father tragically lost his life in the attack, but she was miraculously saved by none other than Shin's brother Shuri. Lena emerged as the sole survivor, forced into hiding from the relentless pursuit of the Legion's robots. In a twist of fate during that dire day, Shuri materialized and skillfully evaded the robot's barrage, seizing the perfect moment to eliminate it. It was during this encounter that Shuri confided in Lena, expressing a fervent desire for his 5 years of service to come to an end so he could return home and care for Shin. However, Shin's recollections of his brother were far from idyllic. In his childhood, Shuri had descended into madness, unjustly blaming Shin for their parents' deaths and nearly strangling him to death. Nevertheless, those turbulent memories seemed to belong to the past, for Shuri harbored no intentions of harming Shin anymore. He couldn't, as he had already passed away. During Shin's early years of service, he stumbled upon the Juggernaut his brother had piloted, only to find a lifeless body within, devoid of its brain. Several weeks later, in the midst of another skirmish, they were startled by the voice of their fallen comrade, who had recently passed away. Lena was deeply unsettled upon hearing these voices of the deceased, prompting Shin's furious response. He realized that the Legion had taken their companion's brain, transforming her into a puppet for the sake of the ongoing war. Determined to grant her soul peace, Shin identified the robot's coordinates and rallied the entire squad to launch an assault, ultimately putting an end to her torment. Lena struggled to comprehend why she could hear these voices, and Shin provided an explanation. Unlike the Republic, which employed the 86 as pilots, the Legion used the brains of deceased 86 members to create their robots. This allowed them to mass-produce evolving robotic forces. Consequently, Shin concluded that the Republic faced a grim fate because once all the 86 were gone, they would have no one left to fight for them. Lena found this hard to accept, remaining hopeful and clinging to the belief that they could end the war before all the 86 were lost. Sometime later, Shin's squad found themselves in a wild, jubilant celebration, but once more, the call to battle disrupted their festivities. They embarked on a journey through a dense forest, skillfully dodging the relentless barrage of heavy artillery unleashed by the Legion. The Legion's robots had undergone significant evolution, having already deciphered the Spearhead's most commonly used strategies and making every effort to evade them. Nevertheless, The spearheads were propelled by an adrenaline-fueled fervor. They retaliated with fierce determination, sending the enemy robots to the scrapyard with their relentless firepower. As the battle intensified, the Legion's forces swelled, and tragedy struck when one of the juggernauts was violently blown into a swamp. Another squad member bravely attempted to aid her, but was tragically met with the same fate, being blown away. To compound their misery, some of the Legion's new humanoid robots lashed onto his juggernaut, initiating a self-destruct sequence. Meanwhile, the girl remained trapped in the swamp, unable to free herself. In a desperate attempt to fend off the encroaching Legion robots, she fired her gun, but her shots had no effect. Faced with the grim reality of imminent doom and no hope of timely rescue, she made the heart-wrenching decision to end her own life once the battle had concluded. Days later, as the remnants of Shin's squad attempted to regroup, he conducted a grim search to ascertain if any of his former companions had survived the recent explosion. To his surprise, one had endured the blast, but was left severely injured. Faced with unbearable suffering, the survivor chose to end his own misery. In light of the harrowing events they had experienced, Lena resolved to seek assistance for her beleaguered squad. She submitted a request for reinforcements, even an aerial strike, desperately seeking any aid available. However, her pleas were met with a heart-wrenching denial. As days passed, Shin's squad received orders to investigate a suspicious location that bore the unmistakable scent of a trap. The Republic seemed determined to prevent their quest for freedom and had a history of sending them on perilous, seemingly suicidal missions. True to their suspicions, the mission was indeed an ambush. The Legion, positioned 75 miles away, unleashed long-range cannons, decimating half of Shin's squad, reducing the original 24 to a mere 9 survivors who narrowly managed to escape with their lives. Lena's determination to seek reinforcements from higher ranks persisted, driven by the influx of new robots and resources. However, she was met with a consistent refusal when it came to requesting additional soldiers. Puzzled by this pattern, the group collectively decided that it was finally time to reveal the unsettling truth to Lena. They disclosed that they were nearing the end of their 5 years of service, and the Republic appeared to have little regard for their lives. In essence, they were being sent on missions with little hope of survival, as the Republic seemed more interested in their demise than their well-being. The resources they received weren't intended for their benefit. Instead, they were meant for the next squad that would replace them after their inevitable obliteration. This was why the Republic had dispatched them on the recent mission, and any future mission would likely follow the same pattern, a suicide mission. Lena struggled to come to terms with this revelation, unable to comprehend why they hadn't escaped or sought revenge on the Republic. With their formidable juggernauts, both options seemed within reach. It was then that the squad's vice captain stepped forward to offer an explanation. They couldn't find satisfaction in those actions. They couldn't bear the guilt of allowing the legions to annihilate the Republic, especially when some Albus had aided and protected them in the past. In fact, some had even chosen to fight alongside them. It wouldn't be fair to condemn all Albers to suffering and death when some harbored compassionate hearts. Moreover, they couldn't let the sacrifices of the 86 be in vain. They had fought together, lived together, and loved each other, which is why they were determined to fight for everything that mattered to them, even if it meant marching toward their own inevitable end. In Lena's quest to seek help, she turned to her friend Annette, who held a position in the military research and development sector. Lena implored Annette to assist her in putting an end to the ongoing injustices, but Annette's response was marked by a sense of resignation. She firmly believed that everything was already destined for doom, and Lena should accept this reality. According to Annette, there was no way to protect the 86, given the 9 years of entrenched discrimination they had endured. Annette regarded Lena's sense of justice as insufficient to challenge the deeply ingrained mindset of the Republic. Lena, however, remained steadfast in her determination to aid the 86, which only served to infuriate Annette further. Annette was intimately aware of the futility of trying to change the prevailing mindset within their country. She shared a personal anecdote with Lena, recounting how, before the war, she used to play daily with an 86 child. Yet, as societal pressures mounted, people began to criticize her association with the 86 child. In response, Annette distanced herself, cruelly labeling the child as dirty and inferior to her own kind. During that same period, her parents sought to protect the child's family, as they were friends and couldn't bear to see them suffer in the war. However, young Annette made a heart-wrenching choice, betraying a friendship by allowing the child and his family to be taken away to a concentration camp. Annette believed this act was indicative of the pervasive moral decay within society, with everyone complicit in the atrocities. She further revealed that even the para-raid system, the very device they used, was built on experiments conducted on the 86 until their deaths. Following their heated argument, Lena decided to turn to the general for assistance. However, the general unequivocally rejected her plea, stating that they could not permit any 86 to survive. They were fully aware of the grave crimes committed against the 86 over several years, and their only solution was the extermination of the 86. Shin finally received word of his brother's voice and promptly contacted Lena to share the news. However, he had more than just communication in mind. Together with his squad, they devised a plan to locate and confront his brother's robot. If they could somehow survive, their intention was to make their escape and seek a haven far from the clutches of the Republic, where they could finally lead peaceful lives. As the last 5 surviving members, they cherished their remaining moments at their base before setting out for their ultimate battle. Upon reaching the location, they encountered not only Shuri's robot but also a multitude of other Legion units. The enemy numbers seemed to grow exponentially with each passing moment, and now they faced insurmountable odds. 5 against hundreds, it appeared impossible to secure victory. Yet Shin, with an eerie grin, began to advance slowly, his singular focus fixed on confronting his own brother. His squadmates, despite the overwhelming enemy forces, followed suit. The Legion responded with a relentless barrage of long-range attacks, intensifying their pace. Shin had one unyielding objective: to confront and defeat his brother. Amidst a flurry of dodges and counterattacks, he closed in on Shuri. Despite his relentless efforts, Shin's heavy artillery proved ineffective, forcing him to retreat momentarily. During this chaotic confrontation, one of the Legion's robots attempted to take down Shin, but was swiftly neutralized by his own robot. Shuri, despite his brain being inside a Legion's robot, insisted on a one-on-one confrontation with his brother. Meanwhile, the rest of the squad expended their ammunition, tirelessly combating the Legion's robots. Their efforts seemed to yield a glimmer of hope as they began to believe in their chances of survival. However, this newfound hope was short-lived as an entirely fresh wave of enemies suddenly emerged, overwhelming them once more. Just when things seemed bleakest, Lena made contact with the squad and orchestrated an aerial strike to assist them. Her decision to intervene stemmed from a surprising revelation. In the midst of the intense battle, Shin continued to engage his brother, employing evasive maneuvers while seeking openings to retaliate. He moved deftly, slipping through the enemy's lines to minimize exposure to incoming fire. Suddenly, he leaped into the air, using his blade to slash his brother's robot and launching a missile with the intent of delivering the final blow. However, he failed to account for the fact that his brother's robot was constructed from liquid metal, which absorbed the explosion and unleashed a set of appendages to pursue him. In his desperate attempt to escape, Shin found himself hurled away. As Shin struggled in unconsciousness from his brother's devastating blow, the squad arrived to seemingly rescue him, but it soon became apparent that this was a diversion. Lena launched a missile toward their location. However, Shuri, determined to personally confront his brother, shielded Shin from the impending attack. In a moment of incredible resolve, the unconscious Shin, driven by his mission, flipped his juggernaut upright, ascended upon it, and fired a shot, successfully neutralizing his brother's robot. At long last, his mission was fulfilled, and his brother could finally rest in peace. In the aftermath, as Shin's emotions surged, he allowed himself the release of tears, reminiscing about the few cherished memories he had shared with his sibling. With their mission complete, the last surviving members of the Spearhead Squad made a resolute decision to depart, embarking on their journey toward a peaceful and liberated existence. However, before leaving, they bid a heartfelt farewell to Lena, who was overcome with tears, urging her not to be left alone. Several weeks passed as the group sought refuge away from the Republic's grasp. Their journey was fraught with continuous skirmishes against the relentless legions. Ultimately, they settled on an abandoned school as a temporary sanctuary. However, they were all acutely aware that this would be their last night together. Shin's heightened senses detected the presence of Legion robots nearby, and with only one juggernaut remaining, the odds were stacked against them. As they made their preparations to confront the incoming threat, Shin made a surprising decision. He switched places with one of his companions, taking control of the juggernaut himself. However, his intentions became clear when he chose to go solo and departed, leaving his squad bewildered. He reminded them that the one driving was the one who had to engage in the battle. With determination in his heart, Shin leaped into the battlefield, deftly evading a hail of bullets while systematically dismantling Legion robots, emerging as a one-man army. But his solo charge was abruptly halted when an ultra-long-range cannon blast sent him reeling backward. 2 more devastating attacks followed, rendering Shin's juggernaut immobile. As the Legion robots closed in, poised to extract his brain, it appeared that Shin was on the brink of demise. However, in a dramatic turn of events, his friends emerged to save the day, unleashing a barrage of machine gun fire against the Legion robots. In the ensuing clash, explosions rocked the battlefield, claiming the lives of Shin's last 5 companions. As the dust settled and the Legion robots approached to seize Shin's brain, the fate of the lone survivor hung in the balance. Days after the 86 embarked on their journey to freedom, Lena visited their abandoned base, assessing the living conditions they had left behind. There, she discovered their poignant farewell message, with Shin's request that she bring flowers if she ever found their remains. This heartfelt message served as a powerful reminder of her motivation to continue fighting and protecting the remaining 86. However, Lena's world took another turn when the spearhead squadron of the Republic of San Magnolia, led by Major Lena, went rogue, severing their ties with her. Left in solitude, she found herself reflecting on the cherished memories of the bond they had shared. Seeking solace, Lena ventured into one of their division's headquarters, where she intended to meet with her uncle, colonel in rank. Within the headquarters, some officers ridiculed her for her contrasting ideals regarding the treatment of the 86, who were often regarded as mere war machines rather than humans. Lena chose to disregard their taunts and proceeded to engage in a conversation with her uncle. During their meeting, Lena's uncle reprimanded her for her handling methods, which had garnered complaints from others. Although he still held reservations about her approach, Lena assured him of her competence, especially when it came to confronting the Legion. Following the meeting, Lena received a call from her new squadron leader, Cyclops, who was stationed outside the Legion's region on guard duty. She promptly issued orders for him to maintain vigilance and provide regular reports while she departed to meet with Annette. Curiosity piqued, Cyclops couldn't help but question Lena's choice of addressing Annette by her code name instead of her real name. In response, Lena revealed her rationale, explaining that it was a duty she upheld as a handler. She harbored a genuine fear of allowing emotional attachments to flourish, akin to the profound bond she had shared with Spearhead. By maintaining a certain distance through code names, she aimed to avoid the emotional complexities that could arise. Nonetheless, Lena's thoughts frequently drifted to her former squadron, and she remained steadfast in her commitment to meeting their expectations of her as their handler. She clung to the hope that one day they might reunite, provided they had survived their harrowing ordeals. Remarkably, the Spearhead squadron had managed to endure their last sacrificial mission and had successfully found refuge within the Empire of Giant. In a twist of fate, they had been rescued during their battle against the Legion by the newly formed Giant Federacy, which had toppled the oppressive Empire and reclaimed territories once dominated by the Legion. While Shin remained unconscious, he drifted into a vivid dream in which his brother, Shuri, materialized before him. In this ephemeral encounter, Shuri implored Shin to rouse himself and continue the journey alongside his steadfast comrades until the very end. With a heartfelt plea, Shuri encouraged Shin to keep his memory alive, stressing the significance of perpetually seeking happiness. In a desperate attempt, Shin strained to catch up to his departing brother, but an insurmountable distance gradually separated them until Shuri dissolved into the other. As Shin stirred from his dream, he found himself in a sterile medical chamber, where individuals clad in hazmat suits monitored his condition through a window. The solemn atmosphere was disrupted when the president of the Federacy, Ernst, entered the room. With warmth in his voice, Ernst introduced himself and extended a hearty welcome to Shin and Jihad. Ernst began to share the tale of how they had triumphed over the Empire, and as the conversation unfolded, Shin's apprehension intensified. The mention of their discovery after the Legion had defeated and apprehended them dredged up memories of his fallen comrades sprawled on the battlefield. Suddenly, the once opaque windows turned transparent, revealing Shin's concerned friends standing outside, gazing in at him. Ernst, before his departure, took a moment to introduce himself to Shin's friends, reassuring them of their safety within the embrace of the Federacy. The group engaged in a candid discussion about their recent skirmish with the Legion, during which they candidly expressed their concern for Shin's decision to confront the enemy alone, fully aware of the futility of such a solitary endeavor. In response, Shin offered a heartfelt apology for causing them distress with his actions. A month elapsed, and Ernst returned to officially extend a warm welcome to the Federacy and grant them citizenship. Despite their initial skepticism regarding his benevolence, Ernst succeeded in persuading them to explore this new land with its contrasting ideals. He led them on a tour through the vibrant streets of the city, where the jubilation and warmth exuded by the citizens provided a stark contrast to the harsh reality they had known for the past decade. As they peered out of the car window, they were entranced by the beauty and serenity that surrounded them. However, they couldn't help but notice a group of demonstrators advocating for the safety and well-being of the 86 who remained in the Republic. Their journey with Ernst continued as he brought them to his residence and introduced them to his adopted daughter, Frederica. In a heartwarming revelation, Ernst declared that he had adopted them as well, embracing them as his own children. As Shin settled into his newfound room, Ernst paid him a visit and presented him with a tag bearing his brother's personal war machine mark, a relic from his previous unit. The sight of this tag stirred a wellspring of emotions within Shin, prompting him to sit in quiet contemplation, his gaze fixed intently upon the poignant memento. As time flowed steadily on, the group exerted their best efforts to assimilate into the rhythm of their newfound life, seamlessly merging into the tranquil tapestry of their surroundings. Shin embarked on a visit to the public library in search of a book, a seemingly ordinary task that would set a series of events into motion. In a twist of fate, his choice of literature captured the curiosity of a young girl named Lena. Approaching her with kindness, he offered her the book, yet his demeanor, steeped in an aura of aloofness, proved intimidating, causing Lena to flee in alarm. Fortunately, her brother, Eugene, intervened, retrieving her and guiding her back to Shin to express their heartfelt gratitude. Despite Shin's apparent disinterest, he found himself engaged in a brief conversation with Eugene, marking the genesis of a newfound acquaintance. In parallel, Frederica and Nina, sharing a natural affinity, began to forge a connection of their own. As the days unfolded, the group continued their gradual integration into the peaceful environment, cultivating friendships along the way, a source of immense satisfaction for them all. One fateful day, while Shin lay ensconced in slumber, he found himself ensnared in a series of enigmatic dreams, each marked by abstract landscapes and haunting voices of fallen 86. Beseeching him for salvation from the clutches of the Legion. In these dreamscapes, he discovered himself bereft of a weapon, rendering him powerless in the face of their pleas. These recurring dreams not only invaded his sleep but also disrupted his visit to the library, where he was roused from his somnolent state by Eugene, who informed him that sleeping within the library's hallowed halls was a practice frowned upon. Eugene extended an invitation to Shin, proposing they attend a forthcoming military parade together. He expressed his heartfelt desire to witness the parade's grandeur before embarking on his journey to enroll in the academy. As they conversed, Eugene revealed his anxieties concerning the ongoing conflict at Jad's borders, fearing the repercussions it might bring to the idyllic town where Nina resided. Eugene's aspiration was clear: to play a role in quelling the conflict before it could spiral further out of control. Shin neither accepted nor declined the invitation, leading Eugene to depart, accompanied by his sister Lena. As the military parade unfolded in all its grandeur, the 86 observed with a mixture of emotions, reflecting on the weight of their duty to bring an end to the protracted war. The day wore on, and eventually they made their way back to their new homes within the serene embrace of the giant empire. It was Kurina who first voiced her inner turmoil to the group, sharing her profound discontentment with the tranquility of their life in the empire. Her heart yearned for the battlefield, where she believed her true purpose lay. Her sentiments resonated deeply with her comrades, and together they made the collective decision to approach Ernst, their adoptive father and leader, about their desire to return to the front lines. Ernst, though initially taken aback, had already sensed the undercurrent of restlessness among them. He reluctantly agreed to their wishes, acknowledging the inevitability of their choice. Frederica played a crucial role in swaying his decision, providing counsel and reassurance that their journey could lead to a promising future beyond the war's end. In a surprising revelation, Frederica disclosed her true identity as the last surviving princess of the giant empire, the very nation responsible for the creation of the Legion that had wrought devastation upon many lives, including those of the 86. She bore no resentment, as she recognized her youth at the time and the influence of those around her. Frederica expressed her desire to join them on their mission, driven by her wish to rescue Curia, her loyal knight who had been transformed into a Legion unit. She also unveiled her unique ability, akin to Shin's, to perceive individuals' pasts and presents. She held awareness of the events surrounding Shin and Shuri, an awareness that reinforced their bond. As the dawn of a new year bathed the world in fresh beginnings, they left behind their life under Ernst's care and embarked on a poignant quest to usher in an era of lasting peace. Upon their arrival at the academy, Shin forged a steadfast friendship with Eugene, their camaraderie evident during tactical exercises. It was during one such drill that Shin executed a bold and unexpected maneuver, deftly guiding his unit to narrowly avoid a collision with Marcel and his partner. The audacious move, while skillful, incurred the wrath of the general. Both Shin and Eugene, along with the other involved parties, faced reprimands and received penalties as they navigated the complex dynamics of their new environment. Exiting the tense situation in the drill yard, Marcel, harboring envy for Shin's extraordinary combat abilities, forged in the crucible of wartime experiences, couldn't suppress his feelings any longer. Frustration overtook him, leading him to confront Shin, whom he regarded as an embodiment of the 86's monstrous prowess in machine combat. Marcel's deeply ingrained prejudice against the 86 colored his perspective and fueled his resentment. In a quiet moment, Marcel discreetly pulled Eugene aside, a familiar companion who had shared the burden of such prejudice. They grappled with the complex emotions and questions surrounding their survival in a world where they were often viewed as outcasts. Meanwhile, Lieutenant Gret, the commander of the Nordlicht Squadron, approached Shin and the other 86 seconds, extending an invitation for a brief excursion. Her demeanor radiated a different attitude from Marcel's, one of curiosity and open-mindedness. Red, a member of Gret's squadron, led the group to a place of profound significance. It was a former Legion-controlled field, now transformed into a solemn memorial site. The landscape was dotted with the remnants of ancient war machinery, silent witnesses to the past. At the heart of the site stood a towering monument adorned with the names of their fallen comrades. The group was deeply moved by the sincerity of Gret's gesture, which spoke volumes of her understanding and empathy. In the presence of this solemn tribute to their shared history, the 86 expressed their gratitude to Gret and her squadron. Her warm invitation to join their ranks hung in the air, leaving the group with a profound decision to make. Frederica arrived at the scene accompanied by Fido, a pet unit they had discovered while leaving the ravaged Republic. Though initially damaged, Fido had been meticulously restored by Gret and her skilled operations team. The sight of this familiar apparatus brought joy and nostalgia to the 86, who decided to keep it as a companion on their journey. In a touching moment, Frederica handed Shin his previous pistol, a cherished memento that Ernst had carefully safeguarded. Shin allowed himself a subtle smile as his comrades warmly greeted him, the weapon serving as a tangible link to their shared history.